Living Consciously television show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios, and we are also streaming on YouTube Live as well as Hangouts and at consciousrevolutionmedia.com. I'm your host and your moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme this evening is how women are uniting the world. I can't wait to find out, and I'm sure same goes for all of you out there, viewers. Let me introduce you to our guest this evening. Her name is Dr. Harbeen Arora, and she's joining us from India. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
And next to Dr. Harbeen, we have Jamie Lerner, who's joining us from that windy city called Chicago. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
And we may have a few more cast members joining us a little bit late, and we will welcome them when they join us. So coming back to our guest, Dr. Harbeen Arora, it's a fascinating theme for this evening. So why do you feel that women need to unite the world?
Well, actually, I think in the times that we are living and the kind of environment that we are seeing of divisiveness, of a discourse of saying, this is me, this is you, and we see that divisiveness impacting our whole existence, impacting nature. We feel divided from nature, man from man, woman from woman, child from child. I think women have always played that role of uniting families, keeping societies, communities together. And not only is it a role that she needs to play because there is disturbance in the external environment, there is also disturbance in the inner environment of the woman, where she's not able to express all that she is in the way that she would like to. Her voice is muted, her voice is stifled, her style is cramped. So we put all of that together, that a woman needs to also come out in all her potentialities, in all the glory of feminine leadership that she has but is unable to put forth. And there is this whole disturbance in the external environment. So if I choose the sacred path of women's leadership to address these problems outside, not only will I address them outside, I will also address them on her inside. So this is really about women uniting first with themselves, the personhood, the womanhood, who they are, uniting with each other. We always hear this little thing about women are women's worst enemies all around the world, and we want to change that because naturally, essentially, there is a deep sisterhood amongst women. We want to revive that. So women uniting with herself, with women, with sisters around her, and then together coming as a huge force and a wave of love and leadership to unite the world eventually.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Harbeen. So we have Linda Dyer joining us from Australia, that place where the kangaroos are always out running, roaming 24/7. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I think the kangaroos took your email because it took a while to come through.
Well, you're far away. You're far away on the other side of the continent. You're actually on a different day.
Absolutely.
What are we doing here talking to you on Wednesday?
Yeah, at least the world hasn't ended. Just call me.
Great. That's great. So, well, I was listening very closely what Dr. Harbeen was saying about why women need to unite the world. But I think for the same reason she said what she said, I think men need to do the same because we all need to come home.
Absolutely. What
do you think about that? Because what I feel that this whole revolution of consciousness, this whole evolution and revolution of consciousness is all about coming home and finding out who we really are and how do we connect and when do we connect to source. I am more and more excited about this on a daily basis because I'm finally figuring it out after how many years? 12 years now. That when I'm in the energy of it, and I am in the energy of it now because I can feel it on my skin, anything and everything is possible.
So, once we come home, we have to show up because I think that's a big part of it. Women, once they are able to acknowledge themselves, and they have to feel comfortable to step out into the world and to um, allow themselves to be acknowledged. And I think that's the second part that has been difficult for women and is becoming easier now because there is more movement of women uniting. But it's, how can we show up and the authentic glory of who we are. And that's the
And
second.
I think it's a great point, Jamie. And I think also that it's about the more you believe, the more you have faith in who you are and that your connectedness to other women, to the universal energy, the more things just happen for you. I'll give you an example. Yesterday there was a massive horse race here in Australia. I don't know if you know about the Melbourne
Yeah,
Cup,
of
but
course.
it stops the nation. And of course, a young lady won the race for the first time in
Yeah.
history. And you've got to look at her speech because it was just gorgeous. She said, "This is a chauvinistic industry." And she said, "I just wanted to prove to the world that I could do this." And I dreamt my speech. I had this connectedness and I dreamt my speech and then I could see during the race that I could make this happen. And she just made it happen. So it was very, very interesting. The other thing that stemmed from that was because it was a holiday, it meant that all the organising I was doing for my book launch couldn't happen. And so I could have gone to bed disgruntled, and for that to know that that's not going to happen now. But I didn't. I went to bed with just so much gratitude of, what had happened with that girl and just, what will happen the next day. And I woke up this morning and at 7:30 I got on the phone and we organised a whole new town in a couple of hours, put it out on Facebook, and now we've got carloads coming to that event. So I just wanted to share that because it literally just happened. As I said, I could have let it go, and I didn't. It was that knowing that, like that girl, knowing that you can make it happen. Just have that faith, have that belief in yourself, that you can do it. And as you said, show up.
Fantastic. All right. So, what is it that you, Dr. Harbin, doing currently? How do you walk this talk in terms of uniting women in the world? What are some of the activities that you're involved in that makes this happen?
So we have this organization called the All Ladies League, and the acronym of it is very interesting. It's called ALL. It's ALL. And the whole idea is that it's not just a women's association to the exclusion of men, but here, women show up more. Like Jamie said, women are visibly more present in leadership roles because it's all about their confidence and their faith in themselves to be able to do a whole host of things for themselves personally, professionally, and on the public platform as well. So we have about 375 chapters all across the world. So it's like a worldwide web of women beyond borders, beyond boundaries, beyond cultures, across continents. And so it's this web where we have a model of distributed leadership. So anybody who wants to take a leadership role is out, and it's a free membership, movement. So you don't have to pay anything. You just have to bring in a lot of positivity, a lot of kindness, a lot of values of the heart that women naturally, embody, believe in. It's just that over here we make it very valuable. We make it like we honor the values of the heart. So please bring carloads of it, like Linda just said. So that's the whole ethos and that's the whole structure. Now within the chapters, each chair is really free to do whatever they like. And the whole idea is to keep bringing in more women into the network. So for women to unite the world, they need the strength of each other. Like Linda just gave this beautiful example of how one woman's example could inspire another woman who didn't know her, who's from a different place, who's from a different field of work. And here, just by the experience and just by looking at the achievement or the inspiration created by one woman, another woman, energy another woman could get ignited like a candle to another candle, lighting it up. So the whole we have three objectives. One is inclusion. So everybody is just referring more kind-hearted women, which is a lot of women out there across different countries, and saying, come on, come together, connect, inspire each other. And so the second thing is, once you include, your job is to simply inspire each other. You don't have to do anything to inspire each other except incarnate that faith in yourself, and just go out there and do whatever you always wanted to do and felt held back. And like Jamie said, show up, So, that showing up simply creates a lot of inspiration. And then when you put that numbers of the inclusion and the quality of that inspiration together, you have what is called innovation happening at the third level, which is born out of these two things. And of course, the whole ethos of bring in positivity, create inspiration, get the numbers. And then there are permutations and combinations of innovative ideas that happen in one's personal sphere, that happen in the professional sphere, and that happen also in the public leadership role. For these women to come, face to face together. So there's social media through which you stay connected with other people. There are chapters where all this energy happens. And then once a year we have a Women Economic Forum, because to us economic empowerment is at the heart of really you going out there and being able to do what you want to do, and not having to really take and do things under the domination, economic domination of men. This is again not to say anything about men, but just really having more balance and more equity. In fact, we include men. We are the only women's chamber in the world that has a men's wing. So it's a statement to say we believe in gender diversity. It's not a women thing. We are taking men along with us, because for sustainable change to happen, we need all. And that's really the acronym. We believe that women, whatever they don't do just for themselves. They do it for all around them. That's the basic. That's who a woman is. And so men, children, elderly people, neighbors, communities, all of that is very much part of what we do at all. And so that's one thing. The other thing which has really picked up a lot of momentum, we started it this year on the 5th of October. It's called, we called it the World Sisterhood Day. And in India, it's got a very special name. It's called Shakti Bandhan. Shakti in Indian thought and now in global consciousness is well known as the power of the universe, the force of creation, and the very energy that sustains and expands the universe. So, and Shakti in India also means the woman, because she is the microcosmic reality of that super creative conscious force, which is in Indian thought, it's divine is feminine. So it's the divine energy born. It includes the masculine. So the feminine englobes the masculine. So Shakti Bandhan is when women tie symbolically a sacred thread around each other's wrists, to say, hey, as a woman, I stand with you. And I've been going across the country in India and across the world. I just came back from an 8-nation tour where I met hundreds of women. And I would just take out a thread and I say, talk about Shakti Bandhan and the whole concept of women uniting with women and standing in sisterhood with each other. And I would just tie this thread and make a little wish for them, like you make a wish for somebody dear to you, with blessing them with health and happiness and whatever you will at that moment. And it's amazing how we call the heart chakra in women, the heart space in women, just opens up to feel that they are not alone, to feel that they have this huge resource of energy of women who they can tap into because of the network. They can just tap into saying, hey, I'm from London coming to India, are you girls there? And because there is this whole culture of kindness and helpfulness, there's a lot of trust that comes in, there's a lot of openness that comes in, and people are encouraged to be themselves. In Israel, I had a very beautiful and a touching moment when I ran out of the thread. So I had taken a about 25 or so, and there were like almost 100 women that came. So when I came to the 26th, I had no threads, and I said, I'm really sorry, but I've run out of my threads, you know. And she had almost tears welling up in her eyes, and she said, can you just hug me then?
Aww.
And I thought, that was for me Shakti Bandhan. That was for me sisterhood, a big hug from one woman to another.
That's lovely. That's just so lovely and inspiring and wonderful. It really is. And it's so interesting how you can really speak of the possibility and not point to the problem, because you could have only spoken about the problem and you have not even touched upon that, as if the problem doesn't exist, because you have replaced it with this amazing organization that oh, it's awesome.
You are part of it. Linda is leading it in Australia, and because of Linda, we have connected to beautiful women in Australia, elsewhere, and that's how the possibilities, like you said, grow. And I'm so glad that I feel this is sort of nature's way to rebalance herself. And I'm so glad she's put us on the side of the solution and not on the side of the problem. While yes, it's a choice, like you said, for us, we could focus on the problem, but we'll never get to the solution that way.
This is so true. And that is really the nature of women. You know, I think that we are come to this world looking always for the solution. You know, never
it's
really
interesting
focusing on the problem.
I was with a lady just recently who actually makes thongs. Do you know what they are? They're shoes with just come between the toe. Yeah, and she was making thongs here in Australia, and every pair of thongs that she sells online makes a pair of shoes for some child in India. And the shoes are made out of like a hessian. And so I put her on to Dr. Harbeen immediately, because I said, here's a lady doing something for beautiful children in your country, and however it's the people in Australia and other countries that are buying her product. So it was a wonderful connection, yeah.
Very nice.
So how do you see, Dr. Harbeen, how do you see this movement? I guess, would you call this a movement? I mean, I feel that that's what it is. How do you feel this movement is connected to consciousness and the evolution of humanity?
I mean, all of it is, because a woman is really at the center of every family. As a wife, as a mother, as daughters, sisters, we're all out there. It's just that if we feel more confident in our own voices, we don't feel that we are lagging behind. We feel that we can bypass all the problems, like Jamie said, that exist. And we have this alternate structure to tap into and use it to express who we are and to lead with the unique vision and the voice that each one of us has, and keep including more and more women, keep inspiring more and more women through whether it is programs that you do or simply a hug or a thread of the Shakti Bandhan. I think we are really looking at getting all the women of the world onto this structure, onto this platform, onto this culture, which is more than 3.5 billion women. And I tell those women, you know, from thousands to millions to billions, ultimately it's not about taking care of half of the world, which is us. It's really about, like Jamie said, it's our nature, it's who we are, and it's our nature to take care of all around us. So when we take care of half the world, the rest of the half will take care of itself. And that's what we're doing. So yesterday I had a lady from Indore, which is a tier 2 town in India, growing bigger. But, you know, we expand very fast. So she called me and she's chairing the chapter, and she celebrated the Shakti Bandhan 5th of October in the same spirit with a lot of women. And she said, for me, it has gone beyond the date. It's about you know, expressing our love for women, and that goes beyond the date. So now the Shakti Bandhan, frankly, across all, you know, all the chapters, all the countries, it's become for all seasons and for all reasons. So she planned a trip to the local milk cooperative in the city where a lot of women work. And she said, I wanted to go out and tell them, hey, we know you, we value you, and we are there for you. And so she carried threads. She got children in a school around to make threads, and she went to this milk cooperative, and they just tied threads to these women, and they had a chat, and they were smiling, and they were laughing, and they had a great day together. And they sent me some pictures, and the energy is getting to me because suddenly these women at the milk cooperative don't feel that they simply work in a job at a milk cooperative. They feel very connected to the community around them that partakes of the milk and all of that. On another note, in Kathmandu in Nepal, we had these ladies go to the local prison over there and celebrate the Shakti Bandhan with these women. And she came back to me and she said, well, we didn't do anything. There were no speeches. There were a lot of dancing and there was a lot of crying. We were dancing because it was on the festival of Tej, which is sort of a local good festival, so everybody dresses up and they sing and they dance, and tears and crying because these are women in pain in prisons, and they were very touched by these group of women just coming and spending this festival, this very important festival of the community, which is usually spent with families, taking out that very important day in the spirit of Shakti Bandhan and coming and spending the day with them. So just a lot of tears. And
so do you think that this movement will help new mothers of children, especially in India, to see their children differently as girls and women?
Oh, certainly, certainly, certainly. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but I would say the ripple effect, what goes out in ripples comes back in waves, and we've really seen that. You make a little dent, you make a little thing over there, and it really has this sort of exponential ripple effect, and we've seen that as we've moved from a few tens of hundreds to thousands of people, that it's what's coming back is this wave, because everybody deep in their own hearts wants to feel like that, but they somehow don't know how. And this is a place that gives them the how of it, but just the energy of it. I think it's all to do with energy, like Steve just said about consciousness and energy. And if you just peg the energy at a very high level, it feels all that it's supposed to do. You just don't have to tell it what to think, because it just uplifts. I tell everybody, if I sing the song, and if you know the song and if you like the song, no matter if you haven't heard the song for many, many years, but you know it's within you, it's in your soul, that song is inside of you, you will begin singing it with me in resonance. So that's what happens. We don't really we just have to bring the energy up to a very positive level with faith in yourself. And like someone said very beautifully, to all the glory, I think Jamie who said it, to the glory of. And I think if you feel all of that, the rest of it, whether it is feeling proud of your daughters, standing up for other women in other places, even when you don't know them, respecting women, I mean, all of that, the whole bouquet of it in a variety of spheres, the kind of attitudes you need to be having for sisters and brothers around you, they just manifest because you've just hit the right note in the consciousness.
This is the most joyous show we've ever had. I'm sorry. No, it is.
Why are you being sorry?
I am just so, I don't know, I feel like crying myself. This is
go right ahead.
Really.
It would be a crying of joy, not
totally crying of joy.
It's something
beautiful.
I think that we have experienced too on the network. At least I know that I am experiencing it. Is this show has been around for 4 years, and I've been watching it to kind of transform itself year after year. And I remember at the beginning when we started the show, we used to kind of come at the show with the duality of humanity. We used to speak about the problems first, and then we talked about the solutions. And what I'm noticing, how the network and specifically this show has transformed, is we hardly talk about problems anymore. It's almost like they disappear. which is an example, and I think it disappears. The reason I'm bringing up this subject is not because I want to go, okay, great job, Coach Steve, you did a great job with the show and with the network. I'm bringing it up because it is exactly, I think, what we are all after, is that when we're in this energy, and I don't know how else to describe it, but Dr. Harbin referred to it as well. There is this energy, and what I call the energy is when we are connected to Source. I know when I'm connected to Source because I feel it.
But I think there's this huge shift in consciousness now, too, towards that joyous connection. And I think people are riding that wave more and more. And your organization is just hooking them up to that, which is like so amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And really in a country that, in some ways, what you're doing is kind of unheard of. Not that we need to speak of that, but it's amazing. It's really great.
It encourages me a lot. Thank you. Thank you. I receive your energy, and it's very, very valuable to me. Every drop of that energy that you've given me, I'm collecting all of that because it's igniting things in me. So it's resourcing me as well.
So that's
and
great.
I think
so
what you were saying. Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Steve.
Go ahead. I respectfully yield
I think
to
what you were
Australia.
saying, Harbin, was when I was in China, I was working with the earthquake victims, and they started to, there was only 100 kids left out of 2,000, and for some reason I thought I was supposed to be there. And they started singing these songs. And I went, oh my gosh, we sing the same songs in Australia in our primary schools. And so, like you said, I started singing. And the kids that had been learning English started to join me. It was so much fun, and yet it was cheery at the same time. It was just devastating. And then I went to Africa to sponsor my village last year, and there's the absolute, and I'm wondering how the organization, and I guess it'll just feed drip a little by little, but the way women are treated in Africa for me, or in Uganda specifically, was just appalling. And yet there's this, I brought back some newspapers, and there's this one man, and he said, I'm going to keep my daughters away from other men, and I'm going to put them through university, because his wife died of AIDS. And a lot of women, every house we met, every house we went to, it was very common for the woman to be dying of AIDS. So this man said, I'm going to make sure my girls stay safe and they go on to university, which is a very different story to the little girl that was raped by the 88-year-old because he's entitled to have an 8th wife. And if she doesn't come for the 15 cattle that he's providing, then Dad will beat her. And they showed her back after Dad beat her for not being sold for 15 heads of cattle. So you've got these extremes. And I think eventually, I'm hoping that, and I guess I'm just assuming, really, that in the long run, this organization that you are leading and putting all through the world will change some of those cultural differences where women are treated like, that 8th wife. So I applaud you for what you're doing.
Just to add to what you're saying and continue this train of thought, I'm into education as well, and we have universities across India. And across the universities, we have a special scholarship scheme for women from underprivileged backgrounds and women from economically difficult, challenging backgrounds, and especially orphan girls, and and orphan girls and women, like you just spoke of Africa. We've had about, and we give them completely free education. So that's university education. That's our way to ensure that women do move from school education to university education, because that increases their chances of getting into the economic workforce by like a 4 to 6 fold, that they don't drop off, that they don't get married too early because they didn't have a choice, but they actually have the possibility of educating themselves, of skilling themselves and entering the workforce. And so we've really seen over the years, and we've not just taken them from India, while the majority come from India, they've come from actually 22 countries, including Africa. We've got a lot of girls from Africa, and they come here and they study completely free of cost. Everything taken care of, from tuition fee to whatever. So I welcome you to nominate the girls of this family where he has this dream of wanting to educate all his daughters at university. Please send them to my university in India. I'll be happy to take care. And so this is a sort of, we've seen the impact of this kind of an intervention, where you really create an enabling opportunity for women to come there and for parents to send their daughters to university. And when these women get jobs and then they start earning, we've seen that they usually send it back to their families, in the sense of taking care of expenses in the family, or if there's a sibling, then making sure that the sibling also moves up the ladder of education and gets into school or college or whatever, and they pay for it. So suddenly from economic liabilities, women are becoming economic assets. Parents are proud of them. Like, oh, my daughter works in the city and she works in Delhi or Mumbai, and she sends all this, and there's some new, bed cover in the house, or a new kitchen stove in the house, and the story for the neighbors is, my daughter so and so. So it's not just for the family to feel very proud of what the daughter has accomplished. It's for the whole community to say, oh wow, because and so coupled with the philanthropic interventions in education, in really in skill development, in schooling. I think if we can get that act together, and then what we are doing is complemented, supplemented, and reinforced a lot.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's certainly a challenge, because another example, my brother was working in Fiji, and he was creating a self-sustaining product out of their own. He said it's heaven up there. They've actually got so many beautiful resources, but they're not using them. So he was showing them how they could use their own resources to make food for themselves, food for the animals, and in fact fertilize their own crops. And this particular crop is all over the world, and it's in the poorest countries. Anyway, in the end, he was kicked out of the country. 71 people were put in jail because the government decided that they shouldn't be that self-sufficient. So I think there's going to be some great challenges ahead, and bring them on, and let us sort out how we can get through those, so that more of what you're doing can absolutely be realized.
Well, women are a force not to be reckoned with. I'm sorry.
Every time I reckon with them, I seem to lose. So I don't.
We are a force of nature, Mother Nature. So yes, it's a beautiful thing when we do come together. Yes.
So we've been talking quite a bit lately on these shows about the millennials in the United States, and these are the kids that were born like in the early 1980s and after, and how different they are, and how they're not following the beliefs and ideas and notions of previous generations. I'm curious about how that is in India.
Oh, well, I know about the millennial and the 80s children and the indigo children in the spiritual parlance who are coming. And yes, to an extent, you do see that energy in the youth of, especially in post-independent India. So we got our independence, in 1947. India has a new constitution, 1950, and then we followed a sort of model of development which really did not bring out the glory of the Indian spirit as it was. I mean, the men and women who got us the partition, who got the British to quit India, they were giants of men and women. I mean, they were like really demigods in that way of what they stood for, how they lived their life, built on great sacrifices. And so all of that, But suddenly, after independence, we don't see those men and women. They're suddenly lost. And something happened in the model of economic development, in the model of social development. We sort of were set back in our spirit by a few decades. And so now we do see, and that's not got to just do with the consciousness part of it. I mean, of course, it's got to do with the consciousness part of it, but it has come through political changes, economic liberalization, a whole lot of globalization, a whole lot of those instruments, and we do see eventually the resurgence of the Indian spirit, which still is, and for millions of people still in India, you do see that lack of faith in themselves, which was never so. The Indian civilization, if you go back thousands of years back, was the civilization that said, "I am God. God and I are one." So we're coming from that place to a place where you're actually not even feeling human enough. You're not even feeling good enough or worthy enough, or whether whatever you have to say is meaningful or is valuable. So we have to, like Linda just said, go back a full circle, and we are going through this journey of this huge dip into what we feel about ourselves, our faith in ourselves. Systems need to develop. So there's a whole cyclical movement going on. But now, from the deep dip of feeling completely lost, not knowing who we are slowly inching ourselves back and beginning the climb to that circle and coming back full circle eventually. And the way India's glorious spiritual tradition has been, I think we're going to come back to ourselves by embracing all of the world once again. So I think all is a very sacred movement, not just for women, but for all of us, for India in particular, and for human beings overall, everywhere. The pain is everywhere. The strifes are everywhere. The reasons are different. The nuances why we are here are different. But frankly, we're all in that same, we're feeling the same abyss within. We are, I have the sisters in, like soul sisters, the all sisters in Pakistan. I have in Israel. I have them in the Arab world. And the pain is the same. It's just the same. And so I think India's legacy and gift to itself and to the world has been the spiritual legacy. And I think this is the ultimate way in which we are going to realize it and to fully live it as we have all gone down, we'll come up by bringing everyone else up with us together.
And the thing about that that's so wonderful is that this new millennial generation, they are not interested in just regurgitating what is being presented to them. They are interested in finding their own path back to themselves and then sharing that. And for that in itself, I think that we're seeing this resurgence of consciousness and just this mass sense of just people recreating themselves and innovating, and I don't know, amazing things are happening in the United States, and I'm sure across the world also, but we have the freedom here, and to watch this new generation just grow and explode, it's pretty fantastic, and none of it is based in religion or values that was passed down to them. So it's a very exciting and scary and confusing time, but I think you're right. It will all come back to just a better world for everybody. So, and a united world. And it's happening every day. So,
yeah. Great. So Dr. Harvey, I'm also curious about spiritual teachers and gurus in India. What kind of impact are they making, and are the younger generation interested in their teachings?
Oh, well, I think I've had a very personal experience and a personal journey with my spiritual guru, and it's been a most beautiful one. And it's, like we say, the guru gives you a rebirth. So you're born each time you come in contact with a great teacher, because there's something rebirthed in you, born afresh, born anew, a new consciousness. And so, and in India, the mother is the first guru, right? So she's the one who teaches you first, who takes away. In India, guru has a special meaning. It does not mean someone who teaches you from the outside. It just means somebody who awakens you. The knowledge, the consciousness, each one of us has it already. The soul has all the knowledge already, and it's just that layers of ignorance have come, kind of dulled the shine of the glorious spirit within. And so the guru simply comes to take away the layers of ignorance and facilitate the birth, the awakening of that spirit which was dormant inside the person, inside oneself. And so those are, in ancient times, those were the gurus. Sadly, as we've there's been a vitiation and a corruption in terms of consciousness at every level, and we see these problems. The spiritual space is not left untouched either. So beginning from the so-called priests in the temples, you have the good ones and you have the not so good ones. And unfortunately, the not so good ones will probably exceed the good ones. And in terms of the gurus as well, really, you have to find the right guru. And like we say, it's your karma. It's a blessing if you do actually find the right guru. And it's very democratic in the Indian space. We say the guru is lucky as well if he or she finds the right kind of student to work with. So it's wonderful. But yes, I've been very lucky to find the guru. And but it's not so, because fear, religion are industries as well. There are people making money on these industries, because unfortunately people are not going to the gurus for quest of learning, or for quest of consciousness, of a quest of knowledge, but they going probably to get some freebies, some little things, get a house, get a car, get a promotion, go abroad, and if you go with those kind of things, well, nobody can materialize those for you, in the sense of,
Boy, here we call those fortune tellers.
Yeah, so not gurus, because if the audience is seeking stuff like that, then so it's very interesting to see that, but it's sort of dangerous. I don't visit astrologers or fortune tellers myself, because I feel what my guru has taught me is ultimately to have faith in my own self, and faith in everything that I am and I will be and I was. So when you have faith in all of that, you don't want to regress into your past life to know what you were and why you are today. You have faith. It's a story you give yourself when you go into regression. So I make up a story and give myself and make myself at peace, irrespective. So you don't need to go into the future to find what will be, because you have faith that whatever will be, and the universe works for your good. It's this grand million mothers, the love of million mothers out there in the universe that's taking care of you. So whatever will be, even if it's like doesn't look like a blessing at times, it will still be a blessing in disguise. And so with that very deep faith, and sometimes it's very difficult. It's in India we say there's a beautiful couplet, a poem which says love, and by meaning love with that ultimate love, with that force of nature. It's not easy. It's like drowning in an ocean of fire and coming out of it. So it's an ocean, and not just an ocean, it's an ocean of fire, and you have to drown into it and then resurface from it. So that's love. So walking the talk is never easy when you really walk the talk. But I think it's an individual journey at the end of the day. So if it's a real guru, he'll teach you or tell you or inspire you to become independent and not dependent on the guru for little things here and there. And that's what my guru taught me, that you need a guru to ultimately be able to listen to your own guru within your heart that has been already given to you. But sometimes without the help of the outer guru, a realized soul, we mistake the voice of the ego to be, or the voices of our desires, the voices of the ups and downs of our emotions to be the voice of our conscience, which is the guru. Ultimately, your conscience is your guru. And so your guru outside is simply helping you clean up that space, and giving you the courage to be able to listen to that voice of conscience and whatever it's telling you, and override the voices, the other little voices which are coming all over in the head, and being able to clearly distinguish the voice of the conscience from the other voices. And your guru is in your heart speaking to you all the time, but to be able to hear that voice, you need the help of a guru.
And on that note, I need to excuse myself and say this has been just amazing and wonderful, and thank you. And you guys continue. Okay?
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being with us. Yeah, awesome. All right, so I'm also curious about technology, how technology is changing India.
Oh, well, you know, in the Silicon Valley, you know, the famous Silicon Valley, you have, you know, more Indians over there than, so it's, technology is, but somehow it's sad that we have, well, over here, now it's increasing a lot more, because there is suddenly faith in the political space, and there's faith in, and there's, again, this whole energy thing is coming back, and faith in our own entrepreneurial capabilities, all that is coming back. But, you know, the technology, you know, Indians in Silicon Valley flowered and blossomed because they got this whole space which believed in them. And then they suddenly blossomed. And I think that's what we need to do over here. Create that belief first. Believe in yourself. And then we have it all. We really have it all to be able to deliver create the same Silicon Valleys over here. There are great entrepreneurial examples. We need to create external ecosystems which bring out, which when you think of something and if you see too many obstacles, while that is the mettle of an entrepreneur too, to do it despite the obstacles, at the same time, if the obstacles are too fundamental, you'll say, oh, forget about it. I'll just do it elsewhere where it's a little bit easier. So I think a little enabling in the external ecosystem is required, which is being done. The Prime Minister, you know, Modi has announced the Startup India initiative, which is really going to put these ecosystems and innovation hubs across the country. And also at the same time, this whole consciousness part work that we need to do of believing in ourselves, because the first thing, because of the slave mindset and hundreds of years of being ruled by other powers have sort of made us feel like, oh, we only need to work for somebody, we need to work in a job. And this whole thing of that we need to be job creators and not job seekers is all very new, but it's spreading very, very fast, especially with very good examples like Flipkart and, you know, great Indian examples of Indian entrepreneurship, where the young people are actually, you know, saying, you know, why not? And so it's happening, it's shifting, and if we believe anything in the ripple effect, it's going to happen sooner than later, because everybody wants to feel that way. And we are inhibiting ourselves in not feeling that way. We're living lesser lives, second lives, and we all want to live first lives. We all want to live in complete glory of who we are. So very soon it will come out. But of course, a whole host of India is a complex country, and like we say, we have different centuries coexisting. So things will happen at their own pace at different levels, but it's all looking up.
Great.
One of my friends from England teaches NLP and consciousness in India, and she's absolutely inundated with clients that want to come to her courses now. One of her programs is around laughing, you know, just seeing everything through the eyes of laughter. And one of the words that she said changes when you get into this level of consciousness is we no longer talk about hope. We don't believe that there's hope anymore. We believe that there's trust, that we can actually trust that everything will happen if we really want it to happen. And so that's what we were talking about before, about we need to step up if we really believe that those things are going to happen, and just trust that they will. Like the same as I did yesterday. I trusted that, okay, yesterday it wasn't working for me, next. Get up this morning, and within 2 hours I've got it all organized, and I trusted that it would work, and all of a sudden I have that support to make it happen. So yeah, they were just two interesting words that I really loved what she was saying.
Yeah,
I think in India, that little thing, since we were talking about India, what has really kept us up till here, going up till here, you because if these were the kind of problems, we would have gone under way sooner. But I think what's really kept us afloat, and especially in India, we always say we've never had the revolution. You have so much inequality, and you have the richest of the richest and the poorest of the poor. But somehow there's always a sort of coexistence and a happy coexistence, unlike in other countries where you have, rioting and the alienated feel alienated, and there's an attack and there are crimes that increase because of this situation. We have our share of crimes too, but not necessarily because of this reason, And that has really been the Indian ethos of karma, saying, okay, you take what you get. This is what you got because this is what you earned. It's not something he's got it or she's got it because she must have done some karma in her past life, and here she is. And so it's my, and I can change it. So I've got this life, and I can do more karma and get there. And so there's this whole acceptance of one's own karma. So even if you see the poor people, they'll have a smile on their face. And there'll never be the sense of entitlement. Yes, we go around. I remember I had gone to Agra with a group of students from Yale. They were visiting our university, and I'd taken them around to the Taj Mahal and all of that. And I remember there were these, the little children who try and sell little things, and they were coming and saying, oh, we'll take this, buy this, whatever. And they were smiling and they were laughing, and there was no sadness on their face. They were enjoying whatever they're doing. And this Yale student made a very interesting comment, which I remember till this day. And he says, I'm going to buy all of that. And I said, well, aren't you bothered that they're bothering you with little, buy this, buy that? Normally people get bothered with that kind of, sort of overselling, and, because you're tourists and you're foreigners, they think you'll buy a lot of that. So doesn't that bother you? He says, not at all. I feel very good that they're not stealing or thieving or attacking or engaging in any such. They're trying to make an honest living. And if they're overselling, so what? It's part of salesmanship, right? They're just doing an honest living. And I think that was very symptomatic of what happens in India. And you really kind of put the spotlight on it, no matter what they're going through. Still, there's a very high consciousness of going out and making an honest living. And I think that's a huge strength. I'm not taking the shortcut. I'm not saying people don't, but there's a minority. And yes, of course, when it's covered in the media, we see a lot more of it, and it needs to be covered in the media. We need to see a lot of that. In India and Indians is a very introspective society. We don't, in fact, we are a little too critical of ourselves. We are a little too introspective. Good in a way, bad in another way, but still, I would still take it over everything else any other day, because it makes us a very learning society. And we are the first ones to point fingers at ourselves and saying, so I'm happy that the media is bringing it out and we are noticing it, that people are getting awakened and saying, okay, we need to change this, what's happening here. So it's important that we are awakening from our slumber and our little alienation, saying, oh, my life, I'm happy with it, but to be able to look around. So there's a rise in the civic consciousness, which is good for the country. But there are a whole host of, good people, poor people who are really wanting, believe in karma, who believe whatever they do will come back to them. So it's important to earn an honest living and not take it, not use it as an excuse and take the shortcuts to success and prosperity and all of that. I think that's a huge spiritual strength.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you also have fantastic food. I mean, let's.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Let's not forget about that. Indian food is one of my favorite. And doesn't that fantastic food helps connect people? Because it's not the same as what we have here in this country.
Yes, we have a lot of vegetarians here. So I remember when I was in Paris, I was a student in Paris, and we wanted to have this Indian food night here. And I cooked all vegetarian food. And I remember the friends telling me, they said, if I could make all this vegetarian food in France, well, this is what I would eat, I wouldn't want to eat anything else. So this is not to give any value judgment on the fact, but the saying that we've really celebrated plants and vegetation and the whole diversity and the whole variety of it. And so I think that's what Indian food is. The spices, the variety, the curries. Every 100 kilometers, the dress changes, the flavors of the food change, the weather changes, the culture changes, the faiths change, everything changes here. And so there's a lot of vibrancy, of diversity over here, which we love. It's one thing to have diversity and be uncomfortable with it, and it's another thing to have diversity and actually love it and want more of it. And I think India is one of those last few places left in the world where you actually look for more diversity and are happy to find more.
Awesome. All right, so we coming to the end of the contest hour. I'd like to make a request of you, and the request is, what would you tell our viewers in terms of, because we talked about this a number of times throughout the show, how is it that people can elevate themselves from wherever they are and however they're feeling to a more positive and a more higher frequency? Do you have some practical ideas that you can share with our viewers how to do that?
Sure. Melinda, would you like to go first, or should I go first?
I was just thinking as you were saying that, Steve, that for me, when I decided to step up, show up, the first thing was making a decision that we need to decide to just be more, to be that independent woman that Dr. Habib was talking about, to be that person that can do great things rather than talk about what we can't do. And then feeling that belief and faith that we have now that, yes, there's going to be challenges. However, we will succeed. I wouldn't have cured myself of a major disease if I didn't do what this process enabled me to do. But I think the main thing was that expectation that there is a universal energy. It's in you. It's in your subconscious mind. We're all connected to it, and that we can work together to make the most amazing things happen. And it's not just in Australia or in India. It's all around the world globally. And so that, to me now, is why I only think, how can I make that happen? That's the way I think, and that's the way my life evolves.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I love that question, Steve, by the way, because it's a very practical question. It's something I experience when I meet other people, men and women, all the time. And I've experienced it myself. So I'm going to speak from very a personal experience, and also the feedback that I get when I talk to people about these two tools. And the first tool is simply accepting yourself as you are, loving yourself as you are. I always tell people, you were made different from me for a reason, and somebody else was made different from you for a reason. If you look at the plant, at nature, if you see a mango tree or a mango fruit, it's different from a coconut, and the coconut is different from an apple, and an apple is different from a bitter gourd. And they're all important, and they're all valuable, and they're all worthy. Our DNA has, the seeds of what we are supposed to be, or destined to be, or the seeds are put in us to become something. So to constantly compare ourselves with others is the biggest folly. So let's not do that. Let's come back to ourselves, look at ourselves, and without giving any words like strengths or weaknesses or positives or negatives, embrace ourselves 360 degrees. Completely, fully, with everything that we have in us, the mistakes, the so-called mistakes we think we made in the past, or the dilemmas we are going through in the future. Everything is supposed to be exactly what it was, exactly what it is, and going exactly where it should be. So I think accepting yourself with that wholeheartedness, with that pure-heartedness, and loving yourself and letting go of everything that pulls you down is the first most important step. To simply allow whatever is in you to come out. You don't have to elevate yourself anywhere, because it's all within you. It's simply, you're gonna, like you said, start resisting and let it reveal itself. At the same time, not put yourself down. That's the second part. My guru used to always address each one of us as dear embodiment of God. Used to look at us as embodiment of God. And that is hugely uplifting in terms of seeing yourself as that, not saying, oh, but I'm supposed to feel jealous because, I'm just human. I did this because I'm human. I mean, that's fine. You accept all of that. You accept this jealousy you feel. You accept whatever you feel. At the same time, you keep the vision, higher vision of who you are. And that path between who you are currently to where you are supposed to walk as an embodiment of God. And God is not this thing if somebody tells you what God is. It's you in your own in your own consciousness what you feel God is. To me, God is a force that is generous. Okay, great. Move towards being generous. God is the force that's forgiving. Okay, great. For you, that's forgiving. Please move towards becoming forgiving yourself and incarnating that energy of Godhood within yourself. For me, God is somebody who's just, who's merciful, or whatever you feel God would be. Start walking that path of realizing that Godhood within yourself. And I think that's the path of really opening up that higher potential which you said is within you, but we're resisting it and blocking it. But that's a practical tool, from accepting yourself completely, loving yourself completely, to then enjoying this journey and walking towards that path of that higher source. You can call it God, Godhood, Buddha, Buddhahood, the force, the Shakti, the energy, whatever name you will, but it's that force, we know that. And start walking towards it, start experiencing a sort of, a dialogue with it, and working with it, and being one with it. And in that journey you will experience an opening up, like you said, feeling I am with the force, I'm in a state of conjunction, a peaceful conjunction with it, with whatever it is.
Fantastic. Well, the only thing I feel right now, or I'm called to add to this, because it was beautifully described, is just to appreciate what we already have. And my personal example of that is this morning as I was driving to my office, I wasn't feeling so positive. I wasn't feeling so hot. So I said, okay, what can I appreciate right now? And I noticed all the trees, because it's autumn here, turning brown. And it was so beautiful. And as I was watching the trees, I was still driving, but I saw the trees, and all these beautiful leaves were falling. And it was so beautiful that it touched, moved, and inspired me. And I started to cry because I was in the presence of nature, and it was so beautiful. I mean, it was something that I just took in to my heart, and all of a sudden I noticed that I elevated my frequency right there. That's how simple it was.
So glad you said that, Steve, because gratitude is really the ultimate. It's and like you said, a lot of people when they say, oh, people don't love me and I'm not loved, and I said, like you said, you receive the love from the falling leaves, and taking it personally, and this
and
beauty.
It didn't cost anything. It didn't cost anything.
Absolutely. Feel grateful for the plants that are sprouting from Mother Earth for us. And if you actually start receiving this love from every element in nature around you, I tell people you will choke with the love. It's so much love. Far from feeling lack of love, you'll actually choke with the love because you feel so much of it. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I think too, for those people that don't sleep well, for me, I go to bed just being grateful for the flowers, like you say, the falling leaves, the sea, the people I met that day, and I honestly fall asleep still being grateful. and I have the
and
best
I'm sure
night's
you wake
sleep.
up that way.
I feel wonderful.
Yeah. You wake up grateful. Fantastic.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for everybody to be on the show and to be on the network. Thank you so much, our guest, Dr. Harbin Aurora. We really enjoyed having you, and same thing with Linda Dyer from Australia, and also Jamie Lerner from Chicago. Thank you so much. If anything that we said, and many of you said so many things that definitely touched, moved, and inspired me, but it had inspired you. Continue to come back to ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com. Continue to watch these shows, and also go to our YouTube channel. We have thousands of shows on our YouTube channel, and every 30 days or so, we have our top 10 list. If the show makes it to the top 10 list based on how many people watch it, and how often, how long, how many minutes, it gets onto our top 10 list, which makes it possible to go to public television. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a wonderful rest of the evening and the rest of the beautiful Wednesday. Send me the lotto numbers, would you please? for tomorrow. Okay. Have a good night. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
See you.
Stephen. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good night,
Bye,
everybody.
happy.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye now.